Alright, this video is a little message to Moviebob regarding his recent video that he put out regarding young liberals and the upcoming election. And while I'm actually not discussing the whole, voting thing, because I really don't care in that regard, what I am trying to make a point about here is that I don't think he realizes that he may be alienating a large section of the community and in general the populace by his consistent demonization of conservatives. Now this is the video in question, and you can go ahead and watch it at your leisure, but to say that he was angry was, well, a bit of an understatement. To put it in picture perspective, Moviebob mad. Now that being said, I don't have any issue with the guy. I like his work, and I think we actually would share a lot of common interests. For example, I'm, a economic conservative, but I'm pretty loose as far as social matters go. The biggest concerns I have in the world are the Second Amendment, the First Amendment, internet freedom, and while it's not up there, the economy is also a big part of what I have concerns about in the upcoming political season and the election. I'm a big proponent of free speech, so I don't hold anything against him for stating his viewpoints or his opinions, and I feel he's got the right to do so. I don't care if it's Fox News, MSNBC, there's always room for discussion and dissent. But apparently Bob forgot that, or has forgotten it, because he spent so much time in some of his recent work alienating and demonizing people on the right. I'm beginning to wonder if he forgets that just because you don't agree with someone doesn't mean you can tell them that they don't have the right to an opinion. Now what you're seeing here is my personal viewpoint on the Second Amendment. I actually own that item, and it's actually embraced and marked by the Jews for Preservation for Firearms Ownership. It's my prized piece in my firearms collection, but that's to show you I'm a Second Amendment buff. But when it comes to social issues, I don't really have any opinion. I stopped caring years ago. But just because you view something one way, like if you support gay marriage, doesn't mean you can tell people who have a different opinion that they aren't allowed to have that opinion, or that they're evil or cruel or mean for having that opinion. Now, I'm not going to say that, gay marriage is right or wrong in one way or another. I stopped caring years ago. I'm a big civil rights proponent. I don't have any trouble with the whole women's rights argument. But what I do have issues with is this idea that just because people on the right disagree with your viewpoint or have different ideals, automatically makes them either wrong or evil people as a result. Let's not forget that the liberals are among the first people to try and silence dissent or shut down avenues of discussion that they disagree with. Regardless of how you might view talk radio or Fox News, they have the right to exist the same way that MSNBC does. Yet it was liberals who immediately tried to put something called the Fairness Doctrine back into place when the talk radio began to hurt their abilities. Sorry, you don't get to decide. The people get to decide what's popular. The Fairness Doctrine was actually something that existed for years until this man happened to shut it down. And now we would not have the media landscape we do, for better or for worse, if it was not for him saying that the Fairness Doctrine was no longer necessary. Now, Bob, I like you. I think your work is great. I enjoy most of it. I think that the game Overthinker is a great bit of work for you to do, and I love the idea that you try to make it something unique. I don't agree with you all the time, but I think that it's a bad thing for you to alienate an entire subsection of a populace because they disagree with you or have a different viewpoint. Think that you doing this causes you to fall into the same category as everyone on this list you're about to see. All of these groups are falling to pieces. Many of the newspapers have shut down. Most of the television stations are in the tank as far as ratings are concerned. And half of them have either been bought or sold off because they're no longer profitable. Guess who's still number one? That's right, Fox News. You should not alienate an entire spectrum of people just because you disagree with them. Doing that is what killed a lot of those other media groups. And while I can appreciate that you liked Obama and that you thought he was the right choice, here's some serious reality you need to deal with. For the past 4 years, he's essentially sat in the economy and driven it in circles. Now, while you can, make proclamations about his healthcare plan, a lot of people think it was bad, including many on your own side, and what eventually came out of it will probably do more harm to the economy than anything he's ever done. On the same token, killing bin Laden may have been great, but now we have 4 dead Americans because of his incompetence. The reality is, leadership isn't just about ability. It's about responsibility. And Obama has never had one and will never accept the other. You can figure out which is which, I think. Okay, let me go ahead and cool down here because I'm getting a little bit too excited. And I don't mean to be mean or crude or rude. I like you, I think you're a good guy, and I just have a disagreement with you on this viewpoint. That being said, funny cat picture! There we go. Now, on to the other hand, you recently did a video I loved in regarding the game Overthinker about the new Nintendo DS commercials and about the whole gamer stigma. Now, I wanted to sort of do a little bit of a statement on the video itself. First, love the video, thought it was great, but I think personally that while you make a great point that we never really addressed nor have ever stood against this stigma that was created as a part of the media and all other forms, but as a general rule, the stigma grew out of the fact not so much that the gaming community is as they portray us, but that those of us who aren't, like that portrayal would have the world believe, never made any direct effort to stop it or control it. And that's just, the reality of it is that gaming as a whole was very insular, very limited. It was a small, tight-knit, generally self-contained community. And that's no longer the case anymore, like you said. But the side effect is that we cannot and should not obligate our duties anymore. As much as I may want to believe, and I believe wholeheartedly that our community as a whole is capable of great things, I think what we've done by not standing up, by not going against the media, by not trying to address the issues at hand is that we essentially let the media make the statement and create the image, and now it's gotten to a point where even the industry itself has to fight that image, and they just don't want to. They'd rather walk away from it and appeal to people outside of our little group. The thing is, you make the point that we have to try and address the image by dealing with the bad apples or by trying to address the conflict that arises because of it. I don't think we can. I don't think that it's feasible or even possible for us to try and stand against the industry's, little dark secret and the fact that the Call of Duty players who spew homophobic and racial insults, or the obsessive compulsive gamers who game themselves to death, these are all a small, very small part of what's happened to the industry, yet they're what the media talks about, and we are responsible for that. We never challenged them. We never went against them. We never tried to rally against the media. And it's something we can do. If you ever doubt that, all you ever have to do is look to how the industry and the internet in general, not just the game industry but the internet as a whole, went against the most recent government overreach in the SOPA and PIPA fight. That was a done deal. They expected that to be law within a couple of days. And then the internet got hold of it, and we broke it over its back. I mean, that's what it really boils down to. They wanted that to pass, and the moment the industry came under fire, not just ours, but the internet in general, we went, full bore on it. The internet, gaming, everybody who might be affected, targeted and assaulted, not literally, of course, but through letters and protests and blackouts and all the different things that were done. We watched as a controlled and unified effort, smashed what was essentially a industry-done deal. The media content providers, the copyright holders, they essentially had it wrapped, and we shattered them. And they ran from it. Their sponsors abandoned it. Everybody who was involved, almost all of them retreated. Not one of them wanted any piece of it. And it's now almost political poison in the same way that gun laws became political poison after the Clinton gun ban. For those of you not familiar with it, look up the legacy of the Clinton gun ban, and there's also some good info from that on the NRA's website if you're interested, but it's probably better to go to Wikipedia for that. But to be honest, I think as a community we could and should go after them. We all talked about Jack Thompson, and admittedly the man was a monster in our eyes, but it was mostly because his viewpoint, as crazy as it was shared by a lot of people. It was his actions that doomed him, not his views. His manipulation, his legal trickery, his questionable moral and legal ethics, eventually they cost him his license, and without his license, he essentially had no clout. But we didn't do that. It was the industry, through a series of lawsuits and other actions, along with the Bar Association. They broke Jack Thompson, and he's essentially not reared his head since. But the reality of it is the same thing happened with Soap and Pippa. It could happen to the media. We as a community, especially those of us who believe that there's better in the community than the Call of Duty twitchy little spazzes and the people who hurl insults to people they disagree with, or the people who like to insult female players simply for being female. Yeah, we can stand against that, but not by attacking them. We won't ever change them in most cases. We can change how the media perceives us by demanding accountability from them. You yourself have more than once made mention of groups like, CNN, or watching TV in the background as you're doing work, and I'm in the same boat. I have music or other things going on in the background, but I never watch TV anymore. But the reality of it is those are the people who need to be held accountable. Glenn Beck once did a piece on Grand Theft Auto in which he, accused it of being like Jack Thompson, an ultra-violent game. But unlike Jack Thompson, he really never went anywhere with it. He just thought it was good TV, and it died out. Nobody ever challenged him on it. And every other time that a major event happened, we trot out this ESA rep or that ISDA rep, but they don't know enough or aren't smart enough to challenge the arguments effectively. And that's what scares me. And I don't feel that that's right for us to be battling this, opponent by leaving it to surrogates. We should either make our representatives go up against them in one of, many ways, either by forcing them to get on the air and challenge this BS dead on, or as I often advocated, the industry has so much money and power now, where it used to not have it. Why don't we use some of that influence and, tell them, hey, if you are going to blatantly lie about our industry, we will break you. We will take you to court and we will crush you. I mean, and, there again, we have Jack Thompson to hang up as an effigy. This was our last opponent. He's disbarred now. You want a piece? Not that we would win, and not that we would have any real direct way of succeeding, but it would be the threat alone that would be enough. And I know what you're going to say, isn't that suppression, isn't that opinion, aren't I, going against First Amendment? No. As you often say, you can have your own opinion, you're not entitled to your own facts. And the fact is, these people often break or blatantly disregard the facts entirely when it suits their purpose. I mean, both sides are guilty of that. And nobody's going to argue that point, because anyone who actually looks into the TV and media personalities that exist is going to tell you, Fox News and NBC, they're just different opinions on the same problem. They're essentially the same issue from different sides of the aisle. And it's true with video games. Neither side gives a crud. It's just good television to demonize this hobby and the industry because it gets ratings. We need to make them be held accountable. And the best way you do that is you target their pocketbooks. And it's far more difficult to defend against a challenge than when you already have lawyers on retainer who can, be brought in to take care of the problem. We could send the legal counsel that many of these companies already possess against the legal counsel of these media industries and really break them. And I think that's why you would see a sort of change in the viewpoint, the same way that once you had more than one media outlet, you began to see how different groups and different media outlets began to deal with news. Now, granted, that eventually led to them being so, ideologically one-sided that we are now looking at what's essentially a nightmarish failure of media honesty and accountability. But yeah, that's the truth. We need to make them pay for it, or we need to threaten them with the prospect of being made to pay for it, and that alone would be enough to force them to change either how they deal with the matter or how they address the problem internally. And if you don't think it'll work, ask the MRA. They've forced retractions and corrections from 4 different major news networks during the discussion about the assault weapons ban. So it can be done. And if you can force the truth out, then you change how things are perceived. And that's what we need to do. We need to make it less, the little troglodytes who hurl insults and spam people with homophobic, epithets, and more child's play, and more Goodwill Gamers, and more the Minecraft creativity. I think that you're right. We need to deal with this, but we need to deal with it from the other side of the aisle. Challenging the people within our own community who are just absolute scum isn't going to change them. We can deal with how this is reported by forcing the media to be held accountable. At least I believe we could. We certainly forced all of Washington to be held accountable when they were trying to do SOPA and PIPA. So it can be done. But the challenge would be in rallying and getting together the resources, both online and on the ground, to make this type of change happen. And I think it can be done. Now, that being said, I do feel that we're going to run into trouble with it, and I do think this is not a problem that will go away overnight. But I think you are one of the examples of how this could start. I don't have anything close to your fan base. In fact, I don't have a fan base. I just do this stuff for my own amusement. But I think you, and people like you, the Escapist, Screw Attack, the Angry Video Game Nerd, and other people like you, could rally together and get your audiences involved to start dealing with this problem. And the next time there's a major news story about this, gather them together and have them go after those industries. Go after Fox News or NBC or whoever it is who reports some blatant fabrication. Tell them, we will fight this, and we will make sure that you and your ilk are held accountable for it. And if it's 10 people, they don't care. But if it's 10,000 or 1 million, then they take notice. Anyway, like I said, Bob, I like you. I disagree with you on certain things, and I think you've made some questionable choices in how you handle your political viewpoints as of late. But I like what you do, and I like that you are smart enough to have an opinion, to formulate it, to present it, to be creative and create your own stories and your work that you do with the Game Overthinker. I like what you do. I just feel that there are some times when you let either personal viewpoints or your own personal ideals prevent you from seeing things more clearly. You are usually right when it comes to the game culture stuff, and I don't usually feel like I have any reason to disagree or argue with you. And of course, I've already said my piece on the politics. I just think that we need to do more than just try and deal with the bad apples in our own midst. We need to deal with the overarching issue of how these issues are reported and who addresses it. Because let's face it, we can deal with all the bad apples in the world, and there'll still be more coming. But if the media is suddenly reluctant to, generalize or falsify or lie about our industry and our community, that has a great impact, because it means that rather than, the next school shooter being blaming video games or movies, the question will be, why was this kid so disturbed that he committed this act in the first place? Where were the parents? That kind of thing. We need to make these people know that we watch, we buy, we boycott, and we target. And remind them that just because they haven't recognized us as an audience, we are the audience. And we can break them. Either way, I wish you the best of luck on your future endeavors. And I hope that watching the Double Dragon footage wasn't too boring while I was ranting and raving. But I'm hoping, Bob, that you have great success in your future work. And hopefully, maybe one day you and I can talk about our differences or our viewpoints and see if maybe we can, come to an understanding. But I'm going to still watch you. I like you. I disagree with you at times, but I like your work, and I think it's great stuff. And I'm hoping that down the road, you might have a little bit more of an open mind when it comes to people you disagree with. Anyway, take care and best of luck on your future endeavors. This is Mega Matt Cat signing off.